In this IOB podcast, an interview with Heil microphones. Why do all the big name podcasters use them? This is the IOB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike, and it's my goal to make your podcast the best. Thanks for tuning in to the IOB Podcast. My name is Mike. If you've been around a while in podcasting and have researched how to make your podcast better, you've probably heard about Heil microphones. Michelle Levitt has joined me for an interview to get the lowdown on Heil mics. Heil microphones focuses on microphones. They don't have a slew of other products. They really focus on the studio, and that is why they're so perfect for us podcasters. Right now, I'm using a Heil microphone, and because of it, I actually don't mind my voice. Well, too much. Did you know that some mics work better with men? Other mics work better with women? It's all in what microphones can do with your voice. And this is Heil's specialty. True state-of-the-art research into making you and me sound better. Let's get to the interview. I'm super happy to have Michelle Levitt, a musician, an artist, and she was the CEO of a podcast studio. How perfect is that? Right now, she's really lucky. She's the marketing director and an adamant content marketer for the international professional audio company Heil Sound. I need some good After Effects there. Heil Sound makes world-class microphones for stage, studio, broadcast, and most importantly, podcasting. They are the best, and right now I am using a Heil microphone, the PR40, and I love it. And I'm, once again, super happy to have her on the IOB podcast. So welcome to the show, Michelle. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Are you using a Heil microphone?
I am. I'm using the PR37.
PR37. So I guess my microphone's better than your microphone since it's a PR40.
Right, because the quality is by the product designation, obviously.
It isn't?
No, I wish they made some sort of sense. The product name.
Actually, let's start there, because I was on your website and I saw that, especially for podcasters, and you have a great segment on your website that kind of speaks to us. You've got the PR40, the PR30, the PR77D, and the Fin. So how do you choose? Is it based on the style that you want? Is it based on quality? Can you tell us some of the differences of these microphones?
Sure. So the quality is the same across the board. Really with the 77D and the Fin, if you have some sort of video component or you're looking for a certain kind of look or style for your studio, those would be good choices. The 77D is reminiscent of an RCA 77, which is a vintage microphone. It sort of has that pill shape. Ours comes in either a matte black or a matte purple, which is quite striking in person. And the Fin comes in chrome or black, and it has foam that is lit up by LEDs if you use phantom power. So it has a really sort of cool vibe to it. A lot of live sound musicians use them on stage. We've had a lot of like music videos use them. You might have seen the Fin in the Hunger Games too. So
okay. So that's got to be out of this world expensive then if all these professionals are using it.
No. So our prices range from about the 300 range to about 400. So there's not a big gap in price, and the price really doesn't have a reflection of quality. It has a reflection of our cost.
Right.
Some of our microphones we have tweaked over and over and over to sort of perfect what we're going for. And that can change our cost on a product. We keep messing with it in R&D. Yeah, in
making
terms
it
of
better.
Sound and how you pick, that's an excellent question, and one that I really enjoy talking about, because I think picking a microphone is a very, very personal decision. And I think that PR40 sounds great on you, but it doesn't actually sound that great on me and my voice.
Oh.
And the reason I use the 37 is because when people meet me in person, they're going to recognize my voice because this is what I sound like in real life. And for me, that's what's important. For some people, they want to have a broadcast sound. They want to sound like that.
More bassy.
Yeah, that warm, traditional, like radio broadcaster sound. And the PR40 is perfect for that, especially on men's voices. The PR30 has a little more of a, like, what we refer to as the modern traditional, or a modern dynamic sound. So it has a more natural sound to most people's voices. So if you really love the sound of your voice, which I know a lot of people don't, PR30 might be good for you. Or especially for women who do not want that extra, like, warm low end sound, PR30 is a really good choice too.
Interesting.
It sounds very similar to the 37. It's the same microphone element. So the funny thing about microphones is the housing that they're in greatly, greatly impacts how a microphone element will sound. So for instance, our PR40 element is also in the 77D, but the 77D does not sound like a PR40. It sounds like a 77D because it's changed to a side address orientation. So you're talking to the side of the microphone instead of the end. It changes how the air moves around the element, which is also critical to how the microphone will sound. So, it depends too, like how much of the body of the microphone is windscreen and how much is hard material. So there's a lot of things that impact the sound. And, if you're sort of on the fence about which microphone to get, I really, really strongly encourage you to try to get your hands on a couple so that you can try them out yourself in your own environment too. Right. That can make a huge difference is,
the room you're in.
Right. If you started out with a condenser microphone for your podcast, like a lot of people tend to, you probably were getting a lot of noise in your recordings. And like right now in my office, I have what would be considered a less than ideal recording environment. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, right?
You got some windows and some hard floors. I have windows
to my left. I have a manufacturing facility to my back. I have like semis driving past the very, very busy road outside said windows. So
we're not hearing any of it.
Exactly. So, and that's why I always choose to use dynamic microphones. If you have a soundproof space and you have the budget for a very fancy condenser microphone, then maybe that's the route you can take. But I don't have a good environment for recording. The only thing my office has going for it is that it has carpet. That's about.
Oh, that's good. That is good. That absorbs some sound.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of some of the things that you need to think about in trying to figure out what's the right microphone for you.
And I've always told people the dynamic mic, especially for a podcaster, since it focuses on your voice, and usually you don't want clicks and chirps and other, little children in the background screaming. It's just gonna really solve most of your problems. But it's a bit of an investment, but the sound quality is so much better, and it's gonna max. I really like what you said. The PR40 is kind of good for my voice. I want that broadcast quality voice, and actually, I sound more like Elmer Fudd without the microphone, so you can see the difference that this is making. And then you said the PR30 might actually be better for women. Not that there's sexism involved in the microphones, but it's just the way that the microphone takes the voice and tones it down, right?
Right. So any microphone has a frequency response, and that's the range of audio that it picks up from a low frequency to a high frequency. And every dynamic microphone that you're pretty much going to find on the market, other than a reference microphone. So reference microphones are really used for like scientific purposes. They're not used to record like human voices. Any microphone you're going to find on the market is going to have a tailored frequency response. So our hearing is not flat. And so when we tailor a frequency response like that, it sort of highlights certain frequencies that make our voices sound more articulate. If you highlight the wrong place in a frequency response, it'll make it sound kind of nasally. If you get it like too far in the low end, it gets a little more boomy. It's like finding that sweet spot of where the rise in the frequency response is for your voice. And that's a very high level concept that like, I don't think I could even like read a frequency chart and be like, oh, that's the microphone for me, right? Just based on the frequency chart. But if you know, sort of your sound, then you can look at a frequency chart for a particular microphone and go, oh, okay, that's kind of where my voice peaks.
So basically the PR30, the PR40, for example, and the other mics, they basically have fine-tuned the microphone to the point where pretty much you only need to plug and play. Is that correct? We don't really need to do a lot of modulation and things like that.
Yes, exactly. There's no EQ needed. I have no EQ on my microphone whatsoever. I always use our microphones un-EQ'd, and no post-production, no pre-production, no processing whatsoever on my microphones. It's just straight into a mixer and straight into my computer.
And that's what we're hearing right now.
Yeah, and the only thing I ever touch on an interface or a mixer is the gain level and the line level or the mix level.
I don't de-esser?
No.
Wow.
Nothing.
It's that clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's oh man, I can't tell you how nice it is. And once again, when I upgraded to this microphone, I was blown away. It was like I was back on the radio. And it's it is a radio style microphone. I mean, we can use this. We have one in the radio station. And I fell in love with my voice again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Elmer Fudd does not like his voice.
No. And I think knowing how to use your microphone and getting comfortable with using your microphone can really go a long way in giving you comfort and confidence in recording your podcast.
Absolutely. And that's one of the most important things. I got my microphone because of a man named Cliff Ravenscraft. Have you ever heard of him?
I have.
Yeah, the podcast man, right?
Yeah. Mr. Podcast.
He set me up.
Man.
Yes. He set me up, not directly, but indirectly through his podcast with all the equipment that I have, and I absolutely love it. But Cliff is not the only one. There are other big names and big groups using Heil mics. Can you list off any? Can you brag a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So the funny thing about Cliff is Cliff is an interesting person because he introduced himself to me one year at Social Media Marketing World. Now, this was many, many years ago. And a lot of podcasters just take pictures of themselves as headshots and put them out there. I had no idea a bunch of these people were using our microphones. And so I showed up to Social Media Marketing World because I'm a marketing person. And I was, just trying to educate myself. And I suddenly find myself surrounded by all these podcasters who are going, we use your microphones. We love your microphones. And I just felt completely overwhelmed and ignorant because I had no idea, because everybody just has a headshot. I had no clue. Half these people, I had been listening to their podcast for years and I had no idea. So Cliff actually got his microphone based on a recommendation from Leo Laporte, if you're familiar with the Twit TV network, which is also a podcast. They have a video component that goes with it. Leo won his PR40 as a door prize at NAB. And
he got his for free?
He got it for free. He won it as a door prize. We didn't give it to him. We didn't even know who he was.
Right.
So he wins the microphone. He actually takes it back and uses it, which, some people wouldn't even do.
Sure.
And he proceeds to spend like a long time on his next episode just talking about how much he loved the sound of his voice to that microphone.
Wow.
And so Cliff ends up getting his. He ends up recommending it to people like John Lee Dumas and Pat Flynn and yourself. So it's very interesting that I can sort of pinpoint the origin of this like viral spread through a lot of like really influential podcasters and people like Amy Porterfield, people like Maurice Smith. These people are all using our products, and Michael Stelzner, which is how I ended up at Social Media Marketing World. He's got the Social Media Examiner podcast.
Yep.
I used to listen to that while I was shoveling snow in our driveway.
Man, I know all these guys. Well, and all these people, I know them all. It's amazing. And they're all using the Heil.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have listened to these people too, and they sound great. Pat Flynn, he sounds, always. And Pat Flynn has an Elmer Fudd voice too, by the way, everybody. But if you listen to his podcast, he sounds great.
Well, Pat is one of those people like Leo Laporte who says his microphone makes him sound better than he does in real life.
But that's the whole essence. I mean, you listen to the radio. That's how I grew up. And you listen to these DJs and they just have the greatest voices in the world.
Yeah.
But then when you actually talk to them online or on the phone, you're not sure if you're talking to the same guy. Is this the same person? So that's kind of going back to what you said earlier. The PR40 kind of helps me as a guy, right, I guess, with my voice a little bit. And I'll be honest, it changes my voice a little bit. Makes me sound much sexier.
Yeah. And then I have a good friend, Dave Hines, who's a podcaster himself, and he works for iHeartRadio. And if you've ever seen me at podcasting trade shows, he's usually with me. He actually has one of those voices in real life. It's like
a real radio voice.
Yeah. So it's kind of like you talk to him, you're like, oh man, I wish my voice had like that. But he's a voiceover actor who does like big national things, and it just so happens that I've known him forever and we went to college together.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. I want to one more time briefly talk about the Fin. That is a really nice looking microphone, and a lot of people now are repurposing their podcast. They're, of course, audio, but they're also including a lot of video, and they're putting on YouTube and stuff like that. And the Fin, the quality you say is essentially the same as a PR40, but it looks so nice.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous microphone. I remember when we introduced that mic, I was a little skeptical. I was like, this feels like a gimmick. And then
like a toy.
The first time I saw it, like we introduced it at a NAMM show and had like a live show to launch the product. And it was just gorgeous on the stage. Like they lit them up on the stage before the band came out. And it just has this cool factor that really no other microphone has. And so all of our vintage microphones are modeled off of real vintage microphones. And so that one is modeled off of a Turner microphone. Its dimensions are slightly different. I'm probably the only
They're a little bit smaller, right?
Is that it's a little bit taller, but a little bit shorter.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not 1-for-1 for a Turner mic, but it's very close. And yeah, if you use phantom power, it'll light up the LEDs, but it is still a dynamic microphone. So you're going to get all the benefits of, not hearing the kids in the next room or the traffic going by, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it really is. I'm serious. For anybody out there, the Fin mic, the PR40, all the mics are great. But if you are using a video element with your podcast, oh my gosh, if you're going to get the quality that I'm getting now with that microphone, and the price is essentially the same. Actually, I think it's a little bit less than the PR40.
It's less than the PR40. Right? Yeah.
There you go. That's a perfect thing. Okay, so we got our microphone, and we're really stoked. And whether it's a PC or a Mac, you're not going to be able to hook this microphone up to the computer.
No.
What do we need? What do we need to really get everything going? Can you give us a list of things that you're going to actually need? It's not just the microphone.
Sure. You need some sort of audio interface. So that can be a very basic one input audio interface. That can be, they do actually make just like USB plugs that you can put in. You're not going to have any control outboard of like gain or line level or anything like that. Or you can have a mixer. So I happen to have a mixer on my desk because we're not using it for a trade show right now. I have several different things. It's kind of just like whatever I grab and throw on there. It doesn't
a digital mixer.
This is an Allen and Heath Z10. We use that for trade shows because we can demo 4 lines of microphones. That's kind of, the long and short of it. It doesn't matter a whole lot which brand of mixer interface, I
have a Focusrite. That's totally cool too, right?
Love the Focusrite products. Those guys are great over there. We've done a lot of stuff with them in the past. I also have a Focusrite interface. I like to keep it at home because it's a little more simple of a thing. And it's, it doesn't take up a lot of space for me. So when I'm at home and I need to do something, I can do it much easier with just something small like that instead of this big mixer that sits on my desk or gets shipped off to trade shows.
So the interface, if anybody's confused, the microphone, that the Heil microphones are not USB microphones. They have a different cable, and that cable doesn't fit into your computer. So this interface allows you to do that, correct?
Right. So I actually did a panel with Dan, and Dan did a phenomenal job. Dan from Focusrite. He did a phenomenal job explaining what a mixer and interface does. So it is basically a signal changer. That's a good way to describe it. So my microphone is creating an analog signal, but a computer needs a digital signal. So the mixer or the interface is going to basically change that signal from an analog signal to a digital signal so that your computer can understand it, because most microphones, other than USB mics, are all 3-pin XLR. That's the output connection. It's standard for live sound. It's standard for broadcast. It's standard for voiceover. Anywhere you go.
It's a thick cable, about a 1/2-inch thick cable, the connector.
Yeah. Yeah. And anywhere you go, the plug is always standard, which is great, because there are other industries where that is not the case and it's a nightmare and you need adapter cables for everything. So you just plug that XLR cable into your audio interface or your mixer, and then whatever comes out of your mixer, whether it's, a FireWire or a USB or an HDMI, that can go. Even some cameras have XLR ports on them. My video camera does.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a Sony video camera. I can just plug my microphone directly into it, and it can be plugged directly. The whole thing can be plugged directly into my.
I'm guessing either that's a very ancient camera or it's a very expensive camera.
It is, I think, 3 or 4 years old.
That's not old.
It's not old. I want to say it was like a $400 camera. Like,
that's not bad at all.
It's a like Sony, like big. It looks like one of those like camcorder cameras. It's not a camcorder,
right.
But it's that same shape. Like, it's not a DSLR or anything like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, and podcasters know this, you don't want to be holding your mic when you're recording a podcast, and you want to mount.
Probably.
I use an arm.
Yeah.
And I love it. I would never go to anything. What are the benefits of an arm and compared to a stand or compared to just holding the microphone?
Well, for me personally, the arm is just like, when I'm done with this, I turn off my mixer, I push my arm aside, and I'm on to the next thing. Like 2 seconds elapse, and I'm done breaking down for the day. I have the space to have a boom arm, so that's a thing to consider. Now, we do make something that got incredibly popular during the pandemic, which is a wall mount for the boom arm. And so it's just this little holder for your boom arm. So you take the stem out of the C-clamp. The C-clamp is the thing that attaches to the table, and you can actually mount it in this wall mount, and you can screw it into the wall. So, say you're one of those people that is, using your closet as your recording space because you have no other space. You can just mount this on the wall and then push to the side when you're done.
Sweet.
Yeah, those became very popular during the pandemic because everybody was at home, and not everybody has an extra bedroom to record in. So making do with what we had.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
What about sometimes you see on a microphone, you see those shields in front of it to protect you from spitting on it? Is that what it is? And in my case, I just have a foam over it. What are these for?
That is a pop filter. And it's all like individual differences. So if you're a very plosive person and you have not trained yourself to use a microphone without one, then they're a really good idea. I like them as a training device. When I had my podcasting studio, I would have my newbie podcasters put their nose on the ring and not get off it. And then they got used to having the microphone right in front of their face. And once they got used to that, then I didn't tell them they needed to do that anymore. They would just stay on their microphone, and they got used to how that sounded, and they would be more cognizant of their mic positioning. So it's a great training tool. It's also a great thing if you're not, like I said, cognizant about your mic technique. So I'm actually a very plosive person, and if I use a 30 or a 40, I usually use a pop screen. On the 37 that I'm using, I have just been using it so much that I know exactly where to sit to avoid those, and I haven't needed a windscreen or a pop filter for this microphone.
Very good. Very
But
good.
it's like you can avoid one of those if you get to know your microphone, because you can adjust the gain and the volume and get it to where you can be right where you need to be without getting those plosives. And what I mean about that is, like, you don't want to speak directly on axis into your microphone. So you don't want to be puffing air straight into the front of it. I know it says, like, talk on this end. It's an in-fire microphone. But you want to be talking off axis. So you want to be talking like at a 45-degree angle so that those breath blasts are going into the air and not directly into the diaphragm of your mic.
Right.
Because it will pick it up as sound vibrations, which is why it sounds like puh, puh, puh. It gets that boomy sort of like hitting a drum head kind of sound.
If you get that in a podcast, is there a way to edit that out or soften that out?
Not really. It depends on if it's, sort of in the word or not. So it can be, if in doubt, put a windscreen on or a pop filter. Yeah.
And speaking of that, one more thing I really wanted to touch on, and I don't think a lot of podcasters take this seriously, at least in the beginning. The monitoring of your podcast. When you go back to edit, or even while you're recording, they talk about not just speakers, they talk about monitors, which is just another fancy name for studio speakers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people prefer to use their headsets. But if you're going to have a nice microphone, it's not going to be a headset. You're going to have to get headphones separately. And I noticed that Heil has a headphones called the Pro Set 3. Why is something like this actually something podcasters should actually really pay attention to?
So monitoring your audio is probably, I would say, the number one way to make sure you have good sound. Regardless of what microphone you use, whether it's a dynamic or a condenser, if you can't hear yourself and know that your microphone is picking up your audio, you could record an entire episode that gets thrown away. And I'm guessing, based on your cringe reaction, that maybe you've done that once. Everybody does it once. It's okay. I've done it. I've thrown away an episode that got messed up in recording. And I had professional audio engineers that worked for me when I did it. It happens to everybody at least once. Hopefully it only happens once. And hopefully it's just a guest that will forgive you. So, I think the number one thing to achieving good sound is wearing headphones, earbuds, anything will work as long as there's something. Now, with the headphones we make, these are like, $110 headphones, I think. These are studio headphones.
That's a standard price for a really good set of headphones.
Yeah, it really is. These are going to be like big, full over your ear headphones. If you're also editing your podcast, this is a really great way to sort of isolate sound. Ours have a metal band in the top of them, so you can like stretch them out and get them just the right tension for your head. And it also has something called a phase reversal switch. And a phase reversal switch is a hard thing to explain to people, but the second you put these on and flip it on, you're like, oh, that. So what it does is it sonically moves the signal sort of from one ear to the other. And what that does is, if you have to edit your own podcast, or you batch record, you're one of those people that records for like 7-8 hours a day so you can get like lots and lots of content, this is a great thing for you. You can flip that phase reversal switch on and it will sonically move the signals to where your ears are not being barraged with sound evenly all the time. So it reduces that listening fatigue.
It's like a massage as you're listening.
Kind of.
A brain massage, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really great. Headphones are one of those things too, like, do I spend the money on that dynamic microphone or do I get this cheap USB? Your time is money. And when you buy a bad microphone with bad audio, you're going to spend a ton of time trying to make it sound good. And if you didn't wear headphones and you were all over the place and your volume levels are all over the place, you're going to spend a bunch of time fixing that in post-production. So we have an expression in our business that is garbage in, garbage out. There's only so much you can fix in post-production. And the worse your audio is coming in, the more you have to spend to get good audio out. Whether that's
And it's not going to sound as good as you're going to want.
No, whether that's buying plugins or, de-essers or all of those things. It's like, why not just take all of that money, put it into your gear, and then save yourself the time by going, hey, this sounds great. I'm going to hit publish.
See, and I couldn't agree more. And I'm sure you're basically the same way. I'm recording this podcast, and I know this section I'm doing on Squadcast, this interview, I'm not going to have to touch it. Maybe I'll take out a pause, something like that. But essentially, I'm not going to touch it. And the reason is because I did invest in excellent equipment, and it's not outrageously expensive, but it's to the point where time is money. I know I'm not putting out garbage, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'll listen through, and that's pretty much all I'll do. I won't have to do anything with post-production, time up my music and stuff like that, but that's it.
Yeah, and I think if you guest a lot on podcasts like I do, I don't currently have a podcast that I'm working on. I've done 4 different ones over the years. I think you need to have good equipment too. Like, we all went through the pandemic. We all did this, like, Zoom stuff, everything. Like, just get good equipment. People are going to keep doing these. Podcasts are bigger than they've ever been. If you want to be taken seriously as a guest, you can't do that with Apple earbuds. Like, that was one of the worst things when I had the podcast studio, was when we would have guests that would have like an earbud situation, and it would just dangle in like a necklace or on buttons on your shirt. And we would just stop recordings, be like, you got to fix this. We would cancel guests, be like, this just sounds too bad.
Wow. I never thought about that for the guest.
Yeah.
If you have been guesting, it's something to also absolutely consider.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, if you're showing up on people's podcast as an expert and you sound like an amateur,
right,
that's not a good look.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I love it. I love it. USB mics.
Yeah.
Are you, Heil, are they intending on getting into that game, or are you going to stick with the analog mics?
We would love to. We are always working on doing it. For us, has been a struggle in terms of like cost. People want to pay $50 for a USB mic, and we can't make a $50 USB mic.
Not with the quality.
No, because that's the thing that people expect from us, is this level of quality. Like, I can tell you that all of our microphones are the same quality, and for us to put out some, $50 microphone, it's not going to be good quality. And that is the thing that has held us back for so long, is trying to find a way without inflating the cost even more, to make something like a PR40 a USB mic. It's hard to do. So we'll keep working at it.
That's great. And if I can, because I'm such a genius in marketing, if I can offer you one piece of great advice, IMHO. I have this little foam thing here that I bought from Heil, right? But it doesn't say Heil on it. Wouldn't that be cool if it said Heil on it?
I know. It should say Heil.
That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, it should say Heil. Some cool colors, right?
Yeah. Actually, we make some of our headsets for amateur radio. They on the mic screen right in front of your face, it does say Heil.
See, and that's what I'm talking about. So if you ever like make a prototype and you want to test it out, just let me know.
Okay. We got a guinea pig. You all heard it here.
Michelle, thank you so much. It's been a great interview. And like I said, I've been using Heil microphones for a long time. We have them at a radio station. We've got obviously all sorts of microphones, but home is where the heart is. And in my home, I have my Heil, and I just love it. And I encourage everybody to get it. And once again, I'm floored with the fin. If anybody out there is using video, got to get the fin. Wouldn't you say, Michelle?
Yeah. A friend of mine he does Rush Soccer, and they have a video component for their podcast. It's like a soccer organization, and he uses the fin, and it does look really cool. And their company color is like blue, so he's got the blue fin with the chrome, and it's just a whole thing. And
classic.
Don't tell him I said he looks cool. It'll go to his head.
I know those types of people. I'm not one. But yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. Have a fantastic day.
Thanks for having me.
One more time, thanks so much to Michelle and to Heil Mics for doing that interview with us. It was really a great interview. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. If there's somebody that you'd like me to interview, please reach out to us on Twitter, intro outro bed, or send me an email, mike@introoutrobed.com. If you have a podcast and would like to get it critiqued, now we're not going to critique content, just the quality of audio and the style and perhaps maybe the opening and closing music, beds, things like that, send us an email. Send me an email, mike@introoutrobed.com, and we'll be happy to do that. Make your podcast unique. Make it sound great. On our website, introoutrobed.com, you can ask TJ to make you an intro, a bed, an outro. You can consult with her and then take your podcast to the next level. We're on iTunes and pretty much everywhere else you can find podcasts, and we would love a rating. And once again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email, mike@introoutrobed.com. Have a super day and make your podcast the best.